Hello, my name is Jim McGillivray and this is the Pipe Box, your source for all things piping. If you find this video useful, please give it a like and please subscribe to this YouTube channel to see more videos like this. We're going to go over some music today, and you can print this music out by going back to the description of this video on my YouTube channel. You will see a link to a PDF there. Today I would like to do with you one of our most popular classic tunes, the 3/4 Retreat March, The Battle's O'er. We almost always play this tune as a march. In fact, it was first published as a slow air in Robert McKinnon's book of music in 1884. In 1909, it was published in the Kilberry Book of Calmednock, and it was not given a designation of slow air or 3/4 or anything, so we don't know how it was meant to be played. In 1936, it was published in the Seaforth Highlanders book as a retreat march. It was published again in 1954 in Scots Guards Volume 1, again as a retreat march. In all cases above, the title of the tune is given as When the Battle is Over. Today it's called The Battle's O'er. How it morphed its title from When the Battle is Over to The Battle's O'er, with nobody seeing it, is a mystery to me. So this great 3/4 march we love probably started out as a slow air. It makes a beautiful slow air. In fact, I've played many a funeral using The Battle's O'er as my funeral tune. The tempo depends on the solemnity of the funeral. It's particularly appropriate for those who may have lived a hard life or had a particularly difficult ending. The tune was written by Pipe Major William Robb, who lived from 1863 to 1909. He was a superb player. He won the gold medal at Oban, he won the marches at Oban, and he was an Argyll and Sutherland Highlander and a fiery redhead. He also wrote the competition march, the 93rd at Modder River. This is not a difficult tune, but there are some musical and technical points we can go over, particularly if you are an intermediate or beginning level player. So let's start by having a quick look at the whole score. As you can see, there's lots of white space here, so it's not a difficult tune. First thing I want you to notice is that there are lead-in notes written here. This is important because very few published pipe music books use lead-in notes in 3/4 marches, even though it is more correct to include them. What this means is that your first left foot will be the C quarter note in bar 1. If the tune were written in the usual fashion with no lead-in notes, your first left foot would be on the first low A. Now, this will affect you if you are playing the tune in massed bands. Massed bands will play no lead-in notes, so their introductory E will be 2 beats. The setting I'm giving you today has lead-in notes, so the introductory E will be 1 beat. So if you play this tune, say, in your band with an introductory E of 1 beat, you will have to change if you play in mass bands and make sure that E is 2 beats long. In the music here, I've circled 2 types of patterns. Circled in red are notes we must play in a very pointed fashion. The blue circles are pieces of technique that we need to be careful of. I'm assuming in this video that you can play doublings and grips. If you can't, then you might not be ready for The Battle's O'er yet. Let's hear The Battle's O'er played on a Dager electronic chanter. My main musical focus in this tune is going to be on the dotted eighth notes and the 16th notes which follow them. Generally, when I hear advanced beginners and intermediate level players play 3/4 marches, I've noticed that they tend to play them a little bit on the round side. They're not pointing these dotted 8th, 16th couplets quite as much as they should. Let's look at the very start of the tune as an illustration of this. The two leading notes, a dotted 8th followed by a 16th. Now, right after that 16th B is a grip on C. So the grip goes from B to C, which some of you may not have done yet or may find tricky at the best of times. Because of that, people tend to play the B too long. They play a nice round couplet there so they can get the B. I hear this. I want to hear this. This is a pattern well worth working on. In the first part of the Battle's O'er, we play that 8 times when we play the first part and its repeat. So it's worth spending some time on that, or you're going to have a pretty round tune in general. This pattern is also very common. Green Hills starts that way. The Rowan Tree starts that way. The Crusaders' March starts that way. There are probably another dozen or 2 or 3 tunes that start that way. So you're going to encounter it again and again. That makes it well worth spending time on. There are other places in this tune where we want to point the dotted 8th notes. Let's look at bar 3. Here we have an E dotted 8th that goes down to a C 16th and then a B doubling. Again, the B doubling will make you want to round that phrase out just a little bit in order to get the doubling in. So what I will often hear is instead of okay, long E, very short C. If we go to bar 7, we have 2 notes we want to be very pointed. This is the ending of the tune. And again, you're going to play this ending 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So make sure you can play it well. So the ending will be pointed like this. Avoid this. So all the way through this part and through the whole tune, pay a lot of attention to your dotted cut pairs. There are a couple of technical things to go over in this tune as well. In bar 2, in the middle of the bar, we see a half doubling on F. As I've often mentioned in these videos and will mention again and again, the first grace note in a doubling falls on the beat. So in a half doubling, you don't have the G grace note you usually have, but the same rule still applies. When you come from high A, you hit that F on the beat, and then the grace note in the doubling follows that, like this. Not. After that half doubling on F, we have an E 8th note, and then in the next bar we have a C with a doubling on it. Again, the G grace note in the doubling will be on the beat. So make sure you hold off on both those half doublings and on the doublings and half doublings in the rest of the tune. Ditto in bar 3, we have a B doubling near the end of the bar. You're going to hold that E, cut the C, and put the G grace note of the B doubling on the beat. Okay, that's the first part done. Let's hear the first part played in the practice channel. Everything we've discussed in the first part applies to the second part as well, but there are a few points we need to go over. Just a little review. The very first note in the second part is a dotted E 8th note. It's followed by a C 16th note, and it's followed by a doubling on B. You know what to do. Point the E, cut the C, play the doubling on the beat. At the end of that bar, we have another pointed couplet, high A, dotted 8th, followed by a short high G, down to an F half doubling. We've talked about the F half doubling before. Again, wait for the beat. After that F half doubling, you drop down to an E doubling. Don't play that doubling early either. So the whole first two bars will sound something like this. Nice and measured and on the beat. There are other pointed couplets in this part, but we were over them in the first part. On to a couple of pieces of technique. Again, the half doubling at the start of bar 2. The very first grace note is on the beat. Resist the temptation to hit any of the doublings early or to crush your doublings. Make sure your doublings are separate. Make sure your grips are open and rippling. That's the general approach you should take to the technique in this part and in the whole tune. Okay, let's hear the second part played in the practice channel. In terms of tempo, I would play this tune as a retreat march between 76 beats per minute and 84 beats per minute. Here, for example, is 80 beats per minute. Ho do bro dum ba dum be do bum do bro dick dum bum bree. Ho do bro dick dum be ho dum dum big. As a slow air, I would play it between 65 and 70 beats per minute. 65 beats per minute is here. Ho to bro di gum be ho dum ho to bro di get dum bro ho to bro di get dum be ho dum ho to bro get do. It's a lovely tune, and we often hear it paired with the Green Hills of Tyrol. There is a video on this channel on the Green Hills of Tyrol, and indeed they do make a lovely pair. That's it for this lovely, simple tune, The Battle's O'er. From me, Jim McGillivray at the Pipe Box, good piping.